Welcome to the NeoVerse podcast.
Motherfucking this, motherfucking that, motherfucking everything, motherfucking everything.
DonPreston's headset died.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Guys for coming and checking it out.
Welcome to the NeoVerse podcast, the number one podcast in the metaverse. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting. We're here with the one and only DonPreston. This man is a legendary musician who has changed a lot of lives. What's up, Don? How you been?
I'm great. I feel good. I start playing tennis tomorrow again after 3 months of being off. And I had a lot of work to do in here and stuff, and so but I'm starting up that again. Because that's probably why I'm here, because I played tennis most of my life. And,
That's good. Exactly. Right we love your tennis. The first thing we want to let our audience know is, how old are you?
I'm 89 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Wow, man. Round of applause for you, man.
September.
Oh man. Let's get a round of applause for that. That's amazing. Man. Just right there is a gift.
This guy is a legend, man. He's a legend.
Let me just say that I don't feel, much different. There's a couple of things that are happening in my life that are different, but physically, I feel like I could race you down the block and possibly win.
We can play tennis together if you want.
Oh, I love it. I was a B player for a long time, and now I haven't played for. I don't even know if I can hit the ball, but I'm going to go out there tomorrow at 2:00.
That's amazing.
Man, we should definitely get a game on.
You are the oldest person in Horizon VR system?
I actually don't know that, but I've never met anyone older than me.
I haven't either.
I've met a few people that were close.
Audience, comment if you've met anybody 89 or older. And I'm just going to declare you right now the oldest man in the metaverse, which is amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly.
Well,
so we have actually
in here. I've built one world, and I started another world before that world, and the one I started is so complicated that it's going to take me another maybe 3 months to finish, because there's so much material involved, and just just volumes of stuff. So
complex.
It's going to take me a while. I have to draw a lot of stuff, and so we'll just see how that works out. But the one I finished already is a beautiful world. It's called Blue Moon, and it's a concert stage that's set on the moon, and you can see the Earth over the concert stage, and of course stars and everything. But it's such a beautiful setting. I've always thought that the astronauts who could see the Earth when they were on the moon, they said it was the most incredible thing they've ever seen. So I said, why not portray that and have a live concert as well?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
And you watched the moon landing.
Oh, of course. I saw the very first one.
That's amazing.
So are you having anybody help? Are you having anybody help you build?
Yeah, I've had a few people. The Whimsy out there is one person that's been helping me. She was helping me all day today, actually, and I help her in her world as much as I can. And so we're both kind of on a learning curve right now, which is pretty close. She knows a little more than I do about snapping, and I may know more than she does about a little bit of scripting that I've learned.
Right on,
so,
dude.
Yeah.
And
all happening.
Another question, man, like, what got you involved into the space? Like, what sparked you to get a Oculus and jump into the Horizon worlds?
Funny you should ask.
Let's hear it.
Okay, I'm doing it. I'm going to do this. because it's interesting. Well, yeah, a lot of people ask me, how come, you're 89? How in the hell did you get involved with the Oculus?
How the
And the
hell?
only reason I have to say that I'm a modern man, a man for the millennium, digital and smoke-free, a diversified, multicultural, postmodern deconstruction that's anatomically and ecologically incorrect. I've been uplinked and downloaded. I've been inputted and outsourced. I know the upside of downsizing. I know the downside of upgrading. And I'm a high-tech, low-life, cutting-edge, state-of-the-art bicultural multitasker, and I can give you a gigabyte in a nanosecond.
Oh, wow.
New wave, but I'm old school. And my inner
Oh,
child.
man.
I'm a
Damn.
hot-wired, heat-seeking, warm-hearted, full customer, voice-activated, biodegradable, and I interface with my database and my database in cyberspace. So I'm interactive, I'm hyperactive. From time to time, I'm radioactive. Behind the 8 ball, ahead of the curve, riding the wave, dodging the bullet, pushing the envelope. I'm on point, on task, on message, and off drugs. Got no need for coke and speed. I've got no urge to binge and purge. I'm a fully equipped, factory-authorized, hospital-tested, clinically proven, scientifically formulated medical miracle. I'm in the moment, on the edge, over the top, and under the radar. A proactive outreach and a workaholic, a working rageaholic. Out of rehab and in denial, I'm a hands-on, foot-loose, knee-jerk head case, and I've got a love child that sends me hate mail. I eat fast food in the slow lane. I'm toll-free, bite-sized, ready to wear, and I come in all sizes. I don't snooze, so I don't lose. I keep the pedal to the metal and the rubber on the road. I party hardy, and lunchtime is crunch time. I'm hanging in there. There ain't no doubt, and I'm hanging tough. Over and out.
Oh my goodness,
Man,
That's,
is that a new upcoming song? Like, yo, dude, that's amazing. Is that like
this brings us into it. Yeah. You're a
That was
poet, right?
poem.
That was a
That
poet,
was a
yeah,
poem
100%.
written by George Carlin 2 months before he died. So I have it down, I'm getting it. So I just had to read that, and because it's appropriate.
So that's kind of like what inspired you to get involved into this futuristic space of like connected into the metaverse, sharing your ideas, sharing your
Sort
knowledge.
of.
So you are a poet, correct? Is that like a endeavor that you are embarking on a lot more seriously now?
Well, I have a book of poetry written. It's actually poetry and stories. So if you want, I can read you one of the stories in the book.
Definitely.
Yeah, man, let's hear
love
it.
that.
Okay.
Can you add some like ambiance
all of these
music in the
stories are
background?
absolutely true, and they're some of them are poetic, and others aren't poetic. And
Okay.
this one is kind of in between, if you will. But this is a thing that happened to me and my wife. God, I don't know, maybe 25, 30 years ago. This is called The Musician. My friend Bob came over to my house. He had an attractive girl with him. This is Alice, he said. She plays lead body. I looked at her, wondering what that meant. She had a nice body, nothing unusual, no big tits or big ass, just an ordinary slim body. About 25 with brown hair, hazel eyes, full lips. Hey, Tina, I shouted to my wife. Tina comes in. This is Alice. She plays lead body. Oh, Tina says, what's that? My friend Bob says, why didn't you show them, Alice? Okay, she says. Bob takes out a cassette player and inserts a cassette. Meanwhile, Alice has been taking off all her clothes, including her socks. She has a nice body. Bob presses play, and Call Any Vegetable by the Mothers begin to play. Alice starts beating herself in time with the music. She slaps her face and sighs. She beats her arms and buttocks. She knows the arrangement and plays along with it, her body turning red as she hits herself harder and harder in order to impress us. In the music, the mothers start playing an excerpt from Holt's The Planets. She captures the dynamics of the piece. At first quiet, then louder and louder, faster and faster. She punctuates each note, first with a pat, then with each slap getting harder and harder, keeping with the music. Her eyes have become very glassy, tears welling up. The music gets to the last section where the mothers play the end of La Histoire du Soldat by Igor Stravinsky. She plays the part perfectly, playing the last note by socking herself in the face, almost knocking herself out. My wife and I applaud. She bows as red welts appear all over her nice body.
Wow, man. Wow, dude. Oh, amazing.
Before we change topics, I have to ask you one thing. Does the reference dancing while you're naked ring a bell to you?
Well, that song, Take Your Clothes Off When You Dance.
Yes.
That's right out of the mouth of my ex-wife. So at one point, my now dead ex-wife, we're living together on the street, and I got a knock on the door, and I opened the door, and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was this guy that I couldn't even, didn't know who he was. Now, I had already seen Frank, but the last time I saw him, he didn't have a beard, he didn't have long hair, he looked like a school teacher or something, you know, and now he looked like Frank Zappa, and it was kind of frightening. Plus, he had a monkey hair coat on him that was the same color as his hair, and it looked almost like his hair had become a whole coat. So he came in, and he just wanted to tell me that he had a band, and that the band was working on a record, and he wanted me to know about it because we had played together a couple of times before, and we had become kind of friends, but I hadn't seen him for a couple of years. And so we talked, but then he started talking to my ex-wife, who was a very unusual person and had really unusual ideas, like taking your clothes off when you dance. And Zappa wrote several songs that were almost out of her mouth, the lyrics. And so that's kind of where that song came from. And I will say at one point, I had a record deal coming with a large company. And I had a band set up. The only place I could set the band up was in my ex-wife's. Now we were separated. But she let me have the living room, which is quite large, to set the band up in. So these guys came, and they were like the top guys at Warner Brothers. And they sit down, right? And we start playing. And I had some really good pieces, like good charts for that band. And we're playing away, and all of a sudden, out comes my wife, totally naked, dancing with the band. She's dancing away, and she dances, sticking her butt in these guys' faces, and just on and on. And then finally, we stop playing. She's left, and they get up and walk out. And
without a word,
what was your reaction?
A word.
What was your reaction to that?
Those people. Wow. That was a gone deal. It would just never happen.
Yeah, what was your reaction to that?
Yeah, exactly. That was their reaction.
What was your reaction?
Yours? Like, were you shocked?
What was my
did you break up with her right after?
I didn't care if she danced around naked, but not for a record deal.
Yeah,
Please.
I know.
Oh wow,
man.
She didn't. She was the kind of person that didn't even have any idea what that was about. It was about
brings me
$100,000. That's what it was about.
It wasn't
my
intentional
goodness.
to her for her to break your record deal or anything, sabotage you type of thing. She was just heard the music and just decided, I'm gonna dance naked.
But I loved her even afterwards. And actually her and my wife became good friends, and
that's cool.
And, in fact, that's how I went and met my wife. Is that No, that's not how I met. Well, our daughter and Tina's daughter went to school together. When they were 5 years old, and then I met Tina, and then we became a couple. But
Nice.
So,
and
anyway.
that kind
but
of
you guys haven't
segues into
asked
this.
anything about. You haven't asked anything about music yet.
Not yet. That's coming. But when I think of dancing around and take your clothes off while you're dancing, the other thing that I associate with that is drugs. You grew up in a rockin' time. Was there a lot of drug use around during that period of your life?
Well, let me just say this: before I joined the Mothers, which was a rock band, I never played rock and roll. I was purely a jazz musician. And I worked with some great people in the jazz world. I worked for 2 years with Elvin Jones, Tommy Flanagan, and Yusuf Lateef. Now, a lot of musicians would know those names. And Elvin Jones became John Coltrane's drummer. And like that. I mean, he was considered, he's dead now, but at one point he was considered the best drummer there was out there.
Oh, wow.
So that was my beginning. And I didn't play keyboards with him. I didn't play piano. I played bass because I was a bass player, at that time, and a piano player. But I decided I'd rather play bass with them than piano because I don't know why, actually. But I just walked up to the bass player and I said, "Can I sit in?" And he said, "Sure." So I sat in and started playing with them. And now Elvin was very particular and more than the other guys. And he would have kicked me off. They wouldn't have continued the song. They would have stopped playing and he'd get me off the stand. But I was a good player and I could do it. I could hold my ground with them at that point in my life, playing bass. Upright bass, of course.
Yeah. These are just
electric basses,
jam sessions.
They didn't exist.
So these are just like jazz jam sessions that you would go to and just join them?
Oh, well, that was in Detroit, see? And Detroit was a wonderful place because almost 70 days a week, any time of day, you could go somewhere and play music with people. Mm-hmm. And whether they were white or black, it didn't matter, Although back in those days, it was either white or black. It didn't really mix too much. And I was good friends with Pepper Adams, who was a baritone player, one of the greatest ever. And we played a lot. And it was just an amazing place to be, if you're a musician. And so that's my learning, how I grew up, in playing with all those people. It's quite amazing.
That's beautiful, man. Amazing.
One story I have to tell you, and this is kind of pertinent to what we're talking about. At one point, John Coltrane came to play in Detroit, and I just happened to be living there because I'd already lived in Los Angeles, and that the guy called me up and said, "I've got some jobs for you. You have to come to Detroit." So I came to Detroit, and John Coltrane came in town and played, and Elvin was playing drums with him. And so I went over to Elvin and I said, "Gee, after the job ended, I said, geez, can I go talk to John Coltrane?" And he says, "Sure, just go talk to him. He's a person." So I went over and I said, "Hi, Mr. Coltrane." So I said hello. I said, "Look, do you realize that everyone considers you to be the person to listen to see what's going on, to see how they can play as good as you do?" "What? No. Shouldn't believe me." I said, "Yes." I said, "You are the person on tenor saxophone that is setting the benchmark for everyone in the world." And I said, "But you have been playing the same way since you started playing with Miles, and you haven't changed your style at all, and you're playing kind of the same type of stuff that you've
upside down fire.
always been playing. I said, you know, in history, if you notice, all the composers that were composing music, but all the way back to the 17th century, the next composer played something that was a little better than the last one, and then a little better than the last one, and a little better than the last one. And each composer developed the music ahead of, forward. And you're not doing that. You have to find new ways of playing in order to progress music the way it should be progressed. And then I left him with that. And then it wasn't long after that, maybe 3 months, his playing completely changed.
Oh, wow.
It was it just went out there. And I have to credit myself for that because
definitely I would.
You changed him.
Okay. Of course, a lot of people hate me for that, but because they wanted the old Coltrane,
Yeah.
But that's always been my philosophy in life, that music has to change, that it has to develop and progress. And that's why I play the way I do. And,
do you like rap?
I think rap is, I don't know, you know what? I mean, it's just barely music.
If you want to follow them, they can take you to the back.
I can't. There are some poets that are doing rap that are quite
like you just did a rap.
Well, I don't know, but I would call it that. There are some poets doing music that is quite astonishing, and it's very syncopated. We were just talking about it with Barack, who was just here in the room, because Barack is a musician and a very good one. And he was doing a rap song for me. And I said, oh, that's great. That's white rap. And there's a difference because the black rappers, they go on the offbeat. And the white ones go on the onbeat.
Oh,
Just a
that's
subtle
interesting.
difference. So, anyhow, as far as rap goes, it doesn't fit into my
style,
like or dislike. I consider it an entertainment for a lot of people.
Right on.
Yeah.
Although some people, I just met somebody in some world, I don't even know what it was. And it was just motherfucking this, motherfucking that, motherfucking everything, motherfucking everything was motherfucking. And I said, boy, you must listen to a lot of rap music, because that's kind of how they talk in rap music.
Actually, and then talking about that,
could you confirm that, Schilck?
What?
Nah, I love rap, but it depends what you listen to, right?
Right.
So there, like any art form, there's good and there's bad.
Exactly.
So, you can't judge rap by the bad rap, but hopefully you can judge it by the good rap, and there is some good rap.
Exactly.
Good. I knew a guy, a black guy that was mostly a poet, but he would do his poems like rap. And he would be a saxophone when he was doing it, and it was just amazing.
Yeah,
some of the greatest stuff
dropping.
I've ever heard in my life. So that was. I mean, if that's rap, then wow.
It's a good segue into the music topic. I know you love talking about music, and Big Sack over here loves music, and you're a big inspiration to him. So I'm gonna let you ask some questions.
So I'm a musician myself. Nothing crazy. I play a couple instruments, but I want to know what got you started. What was the first instrument you picked up, or what?
It's funny. I was just talking about that. Mm-hmm. I was just talking about that to Whimsy this morning, and it was like what got me started was a movie by Walt Disney called Fantasia.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
In Fantasia, there was a piece they did that showed the beginnings of the universe, the beginning of the Earth itself, and then showing how life developed on the Earth, and then how that particular life became dinosaurs, and how they fought to the death, and also then a comet or some kind of body hit the Earth and clouded the sun over for 50 years, and that was the end of the dinosaurs because plants stopped growing and you couldn't do nothing to eat, and so that's what happened. So that music by Stravinsky, see that whole score was by Igor Stravinsky, who I mentioned early in the poem, right? That music inspired me to play music. It inspired me to become what I became. And of course, I started listening to other stuff. Oh God, I hear some recording of Miles Davis playing with Lee Konitz. Oh my God, that was amazing.
Miles Davis is amazing.
As time went on, I became more enamored. And then I started listening to electronic music by Luigi Nono and Luciano Berio, two great composers out of Italy that instead of, they couldn't get their music played by orchestras. So what they did was they started creating electronic music with
Giorgio?
Did
you say Giorgio?
What? No, I didn't. I said Luciano Berio.
Luciano, okay. Because there's another Giorgio also out of Italy. He started synthesizers and stuff. But sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, but I'm talking 1950. I built you couldn't buy a synthesizer. There were none. And the Moog, the big module Moog, that was like still in development. So I built my own synthesizer I had 32 oscillators, filters, and ring modulator. I had also a tape echo, which at the time, that was all you could get. There was no such thing as electronic echo. And so I had that box. It was about this big and by that size. And I took that all over. And wherever we went, I took that box with me, and I played. And whenever Zappa required some kind of electronic stuff, because he knew what it was capable of, bam, there it was. And that's
so you made the first synthesizer.
Yeah, well, it possibly was, but there were other people doing stuff, especially out in San Francisco. Don, I can't think of his name now, but he was building stuff, but I became friends with Robert Moog. I went to his Trumansburg factory, which was kind of a storefront. And I went in there, and I think I took acid before I went there, and he would show me and here's the pattern. Here's look, we're building this mini Moog thing that nobody's ever heard of, and I start crying, because it's such a powerful thing. And so later on, I talked to him, and I said, I took acid before I went to see you that first time. And he said, yeah, we all knew that. So, that was pretty funny.
Your eyes were huge.
Yeah, really. It was amazing. And I've eventually, the first thing I got was a mini Moog. In fact, I was living in New York. I was about to go on the road with Gil Evans, who wrote all the arrangements for Miles Davis on those wonderful albums that he did with a big band. And so I was ready to go on the road with him, but Frank called me and said, "Playing at the Fillmore East, get your mini Moog and come down and sit in with us." So I did. And so we're playing away, and all of a sudden the audience goes, whoa. It was like this big, huge sigh of some kind. And I turned around and looked, and out comes John Lennon and Yoko Ono.
Oh,
and,
oh my God.
And the thing that really impressed me about that concert was that, well, first of all, Frank used to do hand signals for the band. He would hold up his middle finger and go like that, and we were all supposed to go like that, right? Or he would make a fist, and he'd go like this, and we were supposed to play the low notes like that. So,
oh wow.
And he had like maybe 15 different hand signals, right? So he taught John Lennon before he came out on stage a lot of those hand signals. And so in the middle of the concert, he turns the band over to John, and John starts doing hand signals. And I swear that he created a piece that was so incredible. Just with those hand signals, getting the band to do this and that, and everything. And it was actually better than what Zappa did. So I gave me a new kind of a respect for John, because I didn't know he was capable of that, and he was. So, and as far as Yoko Ono goes, I mean, Yoko was just kind of carrying new music a step further with the way she sang. And what she did was planned, and it was based on a lot of music that people had written. And so most people didn't understand that because they never heard any music like that. So anyhow, that's
It's
kind
very
of
experimental.
what that was
The
like.
stuff she was coming out with.
And what I was doing was I was exploring the capabilities of the piano. And I can show you a couple of things right now if you want to. Is that all right?
Yeah, let's hear it. I was definitely actually looking forward to that.
All right. All right. So this is what I started getting into now, and this is in jazz, right? Okay.
Wow. It sounds like chaos, but it's really.
Oh, it isn't.
I couldn't do that if I tried.
Organized
Yeah,
chaos.
it's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, see, one thing about that, once again, it's kind of based on new music, which is classical music composed by musicians that are composers that are alive. And once again, carrying the music further and further and further. So, and that's been my goal in my life, to carry the music further and further. So I wound up playing something like that. And now what music has become is repetitive.
Yeah.
You take Philip Glass or Steve Reich and Terry Riley. Those guys are all playing repetitive music, and some of it's quite brilliant. Music for 18 Musicians by Steve Reich is just amazing. It's just so beautiful. In C by Terry Riley. It's gotten to be a classic piece that people are playing all over the world. And it's a great piece. Even though it's got its repetitiveness, it still is beautiful and really energizing. So that stuff is, that's what I listen to, Sometimes people ask me, well, how did you get the way you got? What do you do? And I said, well, I listen to music that's written by classical composers that are still living. and that's what I base what I do on. Unless, of course, if it's like a film score and there are certain requirements for that score, then I have to do that. In fact, I just wrote a film score that's for a film that's going to be shown here. The film is by Varrock, and it's going to be shown maybe tonight. I don't know. Is Varrock still out there? Is it tonight, Varrock? No, it's not going to be tonight. So it's in the next few days anyhow. And so I did a score for that film. Now the film is only about, 8 minutes? 9 minutes? No? Yes?
4 minutes. 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Oh, 4 minutes. Okay. Are you ready to go see a movie that's 4 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, well, if we wanted 8 minutes, we could just watch it twice.
Right.
So I did the music for that, and it's going to be really beautiful. But as you guys know, you can't bring a film in here.
Yeah.
So he had to make the film in here himself.
Not yet, though. At least not of yet. But eventually, we'll be able to bring.
Yeah, I guess at some point there will be a way of doing that. You can't even bring a photo in here now. I mean, although I've heard people have found a way of doing it, but it's not.
Yeah, there's definitely a way to do it. I've seen a couple, but not throwing any names out there. Yeah. I kind of wanted to ask you, as a musician, everyone has pretty much like a warm-up song, their favorite song to play. What is your go-to to get you started in a practice session, or when you're alone, you just want to play something that you're familiar with and that comforts you? What do you play?
Boy, that's a hard one. It's a hard one because I do, if I need to, first thing, if I'm going to do a concert like I've been doing in here, I have to make a set list. And I try not to repeat myself, over like 4 concerts. I haven't repeated anything yet so far. And,
wow. It's amazing.
But I can't say that there's one song that
not one song.
I have some
or maybe
favorites.
An artist or a band that you play songs in general, or maybe some of your stuff that you play that you've created.
Well, of course. Do you want me to play something? Is that what you're saying?
I would love to hear you play something.
Okay. Other than utter chaos.
Organized chaos. Yeah, it was amazing. Don't let me disrespect it.
I haven't practiced the piano for maybe 3 days now, so I'm pretty rusty.
A little rusty, huh?
All right, here's one of my favorite pieces. It's called Pound for Brown. All right, I have to introduce this piece because it's interesting. Now, Zappa wrote this piece, and the Mothers of Invention had just landed from in England at the airport, and we had a big bus to take us from the airport to inside of London. So we're all on the bus, and we get into London, people walking down the street and everything, and Jimmy Carl Black, the Indian of the group, says to Bunk Gardner, "Bunk, I bet you £1 that you won't do a brown on this here bus." So Bunk says, "Let's see, £1, that's like about $3.98. I'll do it." So he puts his butt up against the wall and pulls down his pants. And then, I don't know who saw him, but that's what happened. And Frank wrote a song called Pound for a Brown.
Oh, wow.
That's how this goes.
Some wacky adventures.
At the very beginning, you hear the trolley cars going by. So it's like this. Right, at least you have that button.
I know, dude. Amazing, man. Amazing.
Yeah.
You guys are.
I'm just. Oh my goodness.
So next thing we want to talk about or ask, I'm very curious, and some of our audience was curious as well, is can you describe and talk about your experiences with the one and only John Lennon?
See, that's what I was trying to say when Mrs.
Nunya.
None of your business?
None of your business. I love that name. That's great. What I was trying to explain is that I was playing in the band. I was sitting in, actually. I wasn't even in the band. I was sitting in. And we were in the middle of playing, on stage. And then John Lennon and Yoko Ono walk out on stage. And during that whole time they were out there, I never said a word to them. They never said a word. Well, they did say a word to me. I played a long solo on the Mini Moog, and they said, "That's incredible." And then, so
how did that feel, getting that feedback?
Yeah, well, John Lennon, yeah. So
did that feel amazing? Did that make your day?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of. The thing is, I didn't think the Beatles. I thought they were very unique, very lucky, and very talented. But it gave me a new kind of respect for John Lennon when he did those hand signals and all that. That was really something to me. Other than that, I had no communication whatsoever with them. And other than the fact that we played together, and that was an incredible experience for me. I don't know if it was for John, but, it was quite amazing. So
I did want to ask you, when you were young, I was listening to previous interviews you've done, and you mentioned, am I correct on this? Your father had a piano at your house, and you kind of played around with it when you were a young kid?
Yes, absolutely. My father was a musician, and he started his own band when he was about 18. It was called DonPreston and the Rialto Boys. And it was like, this was in like 1920 or 1922, something like that. And so he was very talented. And he played in bands. I slept in dresser drawers from the time I was born until I was like 4 years old. Well, not 4, but 3. And then we settled down in Detroit. My dad had the offering of playing lead trumpet in Tommy Dorsey's band, and he turned it down so that I could go to school. So that was pretty amazing right there. And he got a job with NBC in Detroit, which is called WWJ. And at that time, since there had I grew up without no television, of course. And but there were radio shows that were quite big, and so they had like a full big band, for a morning show called the Breakfast Club or something like that. And so my dad had to write all the arrangements for that band, which came on. They were on every day, and so he was busy. I don't know if he was the only guy writing, but he had to write a lot. And that's what he did at home, that piano. And that's why there was a piano in the house and everything. And, so that went on until when I was 12, my parents broke up, and I was put in a couple of schools, Catholic schools that you could live in, so I wouldn't be around for all the nastiness. And also lived with my grandmother for about a year, and that kind of stuff. Anyhow, so when I was about 17, late 17, I did a couple of bad things at home, and so my mom says, "Okay, look, you have to do something. You have to." So I joined the army, and so I found myself in Trieste, Italy, and I was in the engineers, running heavy equipment. So I used to go to the PX, on the weekends or sometimes every night, and they had a piano there. And I would just play the piano, all the stuff, that I could play. And this guy walked over and he said, "Wow, you play pretty good. You ought to try out to play for the 98th Army Band." And I said, "Oh, sure." And this guy said, "Well, I'll set it up for you." Now, that guy's name was Herbie Mann, who became one of the top flute players in the country. One came in first almost every time in Downbeat magazine as best flute player, blah, blah, blah. Played with a lot of great people. And so that's the kind of level of person that I found myself surrounded. I went to the band audition, and the chief warrant officer, who was the head of the thing, he said, "I could tell you weren't reading the music, but you did such a good job faking it. I'm going to get you in the band." So I did. I got in the band, and I was only 18 at that point, and my reading hadn't developed very much also. So I got in that band, and I was surrounded by musicians. I started writing music for everybody, and I wrote music for the concert band. I wrote music for just like a woodwind quartet. And I just kept writing music all the time, and the beauty of it was you could go up to the bassoon player and say, "Can you do this passage? Is this okay for you?" Or the fingering, because bassoon, I don't know if you know this, but the higher the notes are on bassoon, the harder the fingering is, and it can get really horrible. So I had that opportunity of finding out what worked, for each instrument that I was writing for. And so I had a really strong background with that, being able to write music and conduct. And also I conducted The History of a Soldier, with a piece I mentioned earlier by Stravinsky, which was for about 7 musicians. And I think it was violin, bass, trumpet, clarinet, and bassoon, and percussion. That was the 7th. So that was really amazing for me to be able to do all that stuff, And I was also, we'd play, the way that the day looked was that you'd play in the concert band in the morning, you play in the big band in the afternoon, and then after everyone ate dinner, we'd just jam together, play jazz tunes and play jazz. So, can you imagine that going on every day for 2.5 years?
Yeah.
That's just amazing. Totally amazing. That's how I learned to play bass. One night I took some speed over in Italy. The speed is like way more powerful. Anyhow, I chewed up some speed, and cotton.
Snorted it, or you ate it?
No, just came in an inhaler. You just chew the cotton in the inhaler.
Oh, okay.
And so I walked 8 miles into town because we were stationed outside. The band was living in an abandoned whorehouse, And it was perfect for the band because it was a big dance floor, on the ground floor. And then we had a barber, we had a bar. It was just perfect. And so I walked 8 miles into town. I saw this club there. I walked in. There was a band playing, and there was a bass leaning against the wall. So I played with them. I asked them if I could play bass. Oh, yeah. Prego. And they would... so I went over and picked the bass up and started playing. Never played a bass in my life. And I played for about at least 3 to 4 hours.
That's amazing.
And then I walked 8 miles back to Tria, with our building. And from that day on, I started practicing the bass. So when I got to play with Elvin Jones in Detroit, I could play. I could play really good. So, any other questions? I don't know.
And real quick, so and for the viewers that are listening from Spotify and watching that don't really know much about you or even have an Oculus to get in the space to know about you, what kind of big artists or big names have you played with? Like back in the days?
That's the thing that nobody's asked yet, except before we start.
Yeah, I've been waiting on that, actually.
Okay. I mentioned that John Lennon and Yoko Ono, so I played with them. Frank did a movie called 200 Motels, and in the movie, he hired Ringo Starr to play him. So Ringo Starr was dressed up like Frank Zappa and doing lines like Frank Zappa would and blah, blah, blah. As many of you may know or may not know, when you're making a movie, it doesn't just go consecutively, down the line and the way you think, the way you're seeing it. There's all kinds of reasons why they have to stop and reset the lights and reset the camera, blah, blah, blah. And so during those times, Ringo would get on the drums and I would get on the keyboard and we'd just rock out. So we really had an amazing time just playing together like that.
Right on.
And also one thing I found about Ringo is that his playing is very basic, but he had such good time. It was just amazing. It really swung. And even though it was rock, which is 8-note based music, it swung. Even like you always think of jazz, which is 12 based notes, and there's a whole story there. But anyhow, Ringo, even playing rock and roll, really, really kicked butt, and that's what I really loved finding out about him. So, all right, two of the guys that were in the second band that Zappa formed was Mark Moleman and Howard Kalin, and those are the two main lead singers of the Turtles. And the Turtles had some financial problems, some kind of stuff they were breaking up, blah blah blah, and the other side of the coin was that Robbie Krieger from the Doors called me and wanted me to play on his first album, which I did, and also I played on his second album. The thing about Robbie that I liked about Robbie is that he was a tennis player. So he and I used to play tennis together all a lot. And pretty amazing. I'll tell you a very short story about that, okay? I went to Robbie's house, and he lived in this really amazing house, And I said, wow, how did you get this house? He said, well, it wasn't easy. He said, I went to this house, and a woman, answered. I knocked on the door. A woman answered, let me in. Showed me all around the house. And she said, I'm sorry, I can't let you see the master bedroom. What? You can't buy a house without seeing the master bedroom? And she said, oh, okay, I'll show you the master bedroom. So she opened the door, and in the bedroom, in the bed, was Marlon Brando, who was really sick as hell because he'd fasted for 20 days, I think it was.
Oh, wow.
And he broke his fast by eating a half gallon of ice cream, which is the worst possible thing
that could kill you. Yeah, your blood sugar goes crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've fasted a lot in my life, 15 days and so on. And if you do it right, no problems. And it's
getting the food back in your system is the scary, dangerous part, not the fasting.
Well, you start with orange juice. Orange juice, and then you slowly improve. But the thing about fasting is that your body gets rid of any impurities in the body.
Cancer,
all that toxic energy, all that toxic.
I think you could kill cancer with fasting.
Well, the thing, yeah, right. You have to make your body totally alkaline to kill cancer, which is not easy to do, but it's possible. They even make alkaline water, and that's most people I drink. Go ahead.
One question I did want to ask you is, I told you this before, you're over 3 of my whole entire lives. And a wise man once said, the best thing and the most valuable thing you could do in your life is talk to somebody over 70 years old. If there's any words of wisdom just about life in general from what you've learned in your experiences, is there something that you would share to the audience of, like, if you could give some advice to us people who don't know what's going on?
I have some advice also. First of all, don't eat junk food. Don't eat processed food if you can.
That's my favorite.
Drink Cokes and all of that. It's one of the worst things you can put in your body. All of the flavored drinks like that. If anything, I'll drink some Bernard ginger ale or some kind of ginger ale. That's kind of, yes, it has sugar in it, but it's not too bad for you, other than being acid, So I would say one of the most important things to do in your life, and I try to do this every day in my life, and that is I meditate. I'll even be more precise about it. I chant the word Om, because in the Indian philosophy, if you want to call it that, Om means the highest power of love to God, or to they don't quite believe in God. They believe that there's an intelligence that is unknowable. You can't even conceive of that. So that's what I do for 20 minutes every day. That, if I don't do that, life is hard. If
First thing in the morning.
Life is easy. I do it before breakfast.
Okay.
Life becomes very easy and it's just amazing. It's just amazing. And those are the 2 main things I would say, that could change your life. It could.
And what about ego? Being a man, having all this testosterone, you are a man. Like, what would you say about ego? Because that's one of the things that a lot of us struggle with, is like feeling disrespected or things like that, reacting in a harsh way and trying to, be a man, assert your dominance, fight. What would you say about that?
I would say ego, go.
Ego, go.
Ego, go.
It's
go gadget.
Okay, I'm going to read you one more thing out of my book, and that's probably it.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to hear the rest, you got to buy it.
This is called When I Play Music.
Yeah, then we wrap it up.
Okay. It's strange when I play music. It's weird when I play music. A specific set of frequencies divided by 12 up and down the audio range. Only 12 notes repeated. Billions of melodies made. symphonies, concertos, partitas, etudes, folk music, rock music, pop music, gamelan, kabuki, flamenco, gypsy, zydeco, rhythm and blues, country western, hip hop, and rap, just to name a few out of just 12 notes. And what was that sound like that created the universe, the Big Bang, that rang throughout the void, creating visions beyond comprehension, endless distances, vast mind-boggling quantum qualities? It's not enough just to press the keys, blow the horn, scrape the catgut on nylon. I have devised a way to listen as I play, to listen for that faint impulse from somewhere inside, showing me what or how to say the message that I intended of the piece. When I think, the music comes out bad, and if it could smell, it would stink. And it's sad, and it makes me mad that I can't force the music out. But the mind is limited. The voice I hear inside is not. It draws upon the creation of the universe. The process works at the speed of thought, faster than light. Try as I might, I can't come close to that brilliance, that intelligence, with the experience of 1,000 lifetimes. So I tell my ego, go away, and let this other voice in me play the music. Let these impulses be my guide, my beacon in the night. Let me be the instrument that allows this inside essence to communicate all the emotions and mathematical complexities of music.
Wow. That was great.
Wow, man. I wish I could talk to you all day long, right? Because you're a special individual. It's so funny. Like, I find it hard to believe that, or not hard to believe, but it's amazing to me that you have pretty much been involved in music your whole entire life. Like, even my generation, there's people like, don't do music, get a real job. Music's never going to take you anywhere. And you're kind of like the exception to that whole entire thought.
Well, also, I have to say that music is one of the hardest things you can do to make a living at. And I can't say I honestly made a living at it, although I've been lucky here and there and got some big money at some various times. And I've never been hurting. I've never been, although, like as I pointed out, at my wife's 50th anniversary, she has a beautiful golden ring with a beautiful stone. I pound that ring about 20 times just to
you haven't.
Just to get to the next money that's coming in, and so on.
Oh wow! So you've got it back every time.
Yeah, I got it back. Sure.
Oh man!
So it's like it's so hard. It's like when I have students, I just don't know what to tell them because it's such an amazing. Especially nowadays, I mean, I don't know how you do it. Even if the mothers were happening right now, they couldn't get anywhere. Couldn't get anywhere now because the music business changed so much. It's like, first of all, they had glam rock, and then you had to be a young guy, in a band of young guys or young girls. And the youth is pretty much it. You have to have that in order to get noticed. And it's really a big challenge. There are hundreds of thousands of bands that you'll never hear. I knew a girl that I met in New York. Her name was Ezra Mohawk. That's her kind of stage name. She did an album I thought was fantastic. It was really incredible. But she could not get anywhere near it. And I asked a producer one time that I knew, how come this girl has the most incredible album of all? how could she not get that, as a big seller? And he says, I'll tell you why. Because you have to invest over $1 million in promotion of that album.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have that, you're never going to get anywhere. So obviously she didn't have $1 million to put in it. So that's one of the big problems today, of being a musician.
Yeah. So, and that was going to bring me to, one of my questions, and the last question I have for a young generation of artists. What would be your biggest advice to keep going, chase their dreams? What would you say to them?
No, not any of those things. My biggest advice to any musician is practice your ass off. Because if you don't, you're just going to be an ordinary musician. You have to be extraordinary in order to get anywhere at all. And even then, it's risky.
Yep.
But if you don't practice your ass off, look, I'm 89 years old. I have to practice minimum 2 hours a day. Minimum. And like I said earlier, I haven't practiced for 3 days because I've been working on this damn world and trying to, make it perfect. And with a lot of help, if you don't mind my saying.
Practice.
So,
practice is very important.
I think that's the most important thing
of
being a musician. And I've had students, and you think I can get them to practice? They wouldn't practice. And finally, I had this one guy who was great. He wrote great songs. He would never practice. I showed him all the things you could practice that are, really great for your fingers and everything. No, didn't want to do it. So, and he'll probably never get anywhere with this stuff because he can't perform it.
Mm-hmm.
He can only make an attempt at performing it because he doesn't have the chops to do it.
Yeah. So when I was in my band, I would
play
practice
for 3 days, and I can play pretty good, because it holds over. But if I didn't practice tomorrow, then it would really start showing.
You can play amazing.
So
we'll correct you on that.
Yeah.
Well, when it's extended period, so I was in a band for a couple of years, and I would practice minimum for me was 4 hours a day, plus practice with the band, plus a jam session after. So, I practiced so much, and I was getting really good, but then something happened, and I just stopped for 2 years, and that was one of the worst decisions I could have ever made, is just taking that break. I wish I would have just played every once in a while, but everything I lost, I picked a little bit of it up, but all that progress I made.
To you at all, Big Zach. But, I have to say that if you're in all of our lives, you have to be careful about, number one, how you treat women, how you treat other people, and how you treat yourself. Because there's a thing called karma, and that is like God doesn't have to punish you. We punish ourselves. And people that are, some people have no conscience at all. They don't have any, in other words, they'll go and kill people right and left, and they feel like they don't have any conscience, but everyone does, no matter who you are, and it catches up with you, no matter what. And so, if some reasons why, I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying that you have to live a good life in order to excel at anything. That's all.
We should tell that to Russia.
No kidding. Yeah.
Forgiving yourself and loving yourself is one of the most hard things for probably all of us. I have a hard time loving myself.
Yep.
It's a daily struggle actually believing that you are worth anything, right? So that's good that you said that. It makes us all human and connect in a way. Like, even if we're beating everybody up for their flaws, it's just because deep down inside the person is hurting and they want somebody else to hurt, right? It's a funny thing.
Right. Well, it's what it is, you know.
Yeah,
that's all I know.
And that have you ever felt? Oh, sorry. Have you ever felt you messed up or let down, or have you ever messed up during a performance? That's the big question. That'd be a terrible feeling, I'm sure.
No. I mean, I'm thinking.
I have.
I have to say that no, I haven't. I mean, I worked very hard to.
You practiced your ass off.
That music. Just to give you an example, I mean, I'm mostly talking about Zappa. When I joined the band, Zappa played. We had one song called "Little House I Used to Live In," and I'll just show you kind of a thing that we used to do.
DonPreston's headset died.
Yeah,
and that's it.
No, guys. Well, thanks for DonPreston for coming in. I know he's not here right now, but thanks for checking out. It was an honor to have a legend. It was an honor to have a legend here, DonPreston. Yeah. Cheers to him. For the listeners watching, thank you guys for coming and joining the show. This is NeoVerse.
Y'all stayed the whole
this
time.
Is Schilck.
We appreciate
this
it
is
so
Big
much.
Isaac. Thank you guys for coming and checking it out.
Dude, she said I'm out.